Hey everyone, I'm Eric. Today, we're diving into a book that comes from Wharton's most popular course. It's called Getting More, and it makes a pretty bold claim that it can totally reframe how you approach, well, almost everything, from buying a cup of coffee to closing a massive deal. Let's find out if it actually delivers.
So let's kick things off with a scene I bet you'll recognize. You found it, the perfect sofa. It's $1,000, you walk into the store, wallet ready, and then you spot it, a tiny little scratch on the armrest. And that little voice in your head goes, aha, perfect, this is my leverage. So you flag down a salesperson, point to the scratch and say, hey, this thing's damaged. I'll give you $800 for it.
And the salesperson politely says no. So your voice gets a little louder. Their polite smile starts to fade. Fast forward half an hour, and you're storming out of that store absolutely fuming. You're exhausted, you're annoyed, and, here's the kicker, you still don't have a sofa. In the store, they lost a sale and probably ticked off a customer for good. It's a total lose-lose. Sound familiar?
So why does this happen all the time? Well, according to Stuart Diamond, the author of Getting More, the problem isn't your logic. It's not about your leverage, it's your entire approach that's wrong. And this guy knows what he's talking about. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who's advised huge companies like Google on billion-dollar deals. His whole point is that the old-school way of thinking about negotiation, all about power and logic, is just fundamentally broken.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to unlearn 3 fatal myths that are probably holding you back right now. Then we'll learn the 2 core pillars of the Getting More method. And finally, we'll get practical and look at a toolkit you can start using right away.
All right, let's get into it. First things first, we have to tear down the old framework. Diamond says most of us fail in negotiations not because we aren't smart, but because we're running on a faulty operating system built on 3 really bad myths.
Okay, myth number 1. The myth of rationality. This is the idea that if you just lay out all your facts and your logic is absolutely perfect, the other person will have no choice but to agree with you. But here's the tough pill to swallow that Diamond points out. In a real negotiation, the other person doesn't care if you're right. They only care about what they see and what they need.
I once had a laptop break while it was still under warranty. I went to the service center and they kept trying to tell me it was my fault. I laid out my case perfectly. I had the warranty terms, the receipt, my logic was airtight. But the agent just kept saying, "Sir, it's company policy." It honestly felt like I was punching cotton. Here's what I learned. My flawless logic meant nothing because he had zero power to change things. My real goal wasn't to win an argument, it was to get my laptop fixed.
And that brings us perfectly to the second big mistake, the myth of power. This is the classic my way or the highway approach. Give me a raise or I quit. Do your homework or you're grounded. We think that having the bigger fist automatically means we win.
But get this, Diamond's research with over 30,000 students found something pretty shocking. When you make the other person feel like you're cornering them, your chance of success drops to less than 10%. Why? Because using power doesn't create agreement, it just creates resentment. Sure, you might win the battle and force an employee to work over the weekend, but you're going to lose the war when they start quietly sending out their resume on Monday.
And the third and final mistake is the myth of the zero-sum game. This is the classic thinking that we're just dividing up a fixed pie. If I get a bigger slice, that means you get a smaller one. This mindset is so dangerous because it makes us completely blind to the most valuable things on the table.
It turns out the most important items in any negotiation are often the ones you can't see. Things like respect, empathy, or just the feeling of being heard. So let's rewind that sofa scenario. What if, instead of demanding a discount, you said, well, I really love this sofa. It's a real shame about this little scratch. Look, I know the price is probably set, but is there any way you could throw in a cleaning kit or something? See what you did there? You acknowledged their position, you offered a way to solve the problem together, and you traded something that cost them very little for something that you actually value.
So, now that we've busted those myths, let's build the new foundation. The entire Getting More philosophy really comes down to 2 simple but incredibly powerful pillars.
Pillar number 1 seems almost too simple. Focus on your goals. I know, it sounds obvious, right? But Diamond says that a whopping 90% of people get completely sidetracked by their ego and emotions the second a negotiation gets tense. The secret is to have a question running on a loop in the back of your mind. Is what I'm about to say or do going to get me closer to what I actually want? And focusing on your goals means you have to be flexible. Diamond tells this great story about buying a car. His goal was to pay $20,000. The dealer just wouldn't budge from $22,000. Now, a normal negotiator would have walked away. But Diamond kept the conversation going and found out two key things. The salesman was just one sale away from hitting his monthly quota, and the dealership was running a special bonus for trade-ins. So he changed his strategy. He agreed to the higher price but negotiated an amazing price for his old car. In the end, he actually spent less than his original $20,000 goal.
Now, this second pillar, this is the real game changer. Put people first. This means you have to stop negotiating with a salesperson or a manager and start talking to a human being, a person who has their own pressures, their own biases, their own goals. The fundamental idea here is that to get what you want, you first have to see the world from their perspective.
And Diamond gives us a simple 3-step method to do this. First, you draw their portrait. What kind of pressure are they under? Who's their boss? What are they afraid might happen? Second, you make emotional payments. These are things that are totally free but are worth a fortune. A simple apology, showing some empathy, giving respect, and actually listening. These things lower their defenses and build trust. And third, once you understand them, you can find those unequal value items, trading something that's easy for you to give away for something that they find incredibly valuable.
So theory is great, but how do we actually put these pillars into practice? Let's get into the toolkit and see how this mindset works in a couple of common high-stakes situations. Okay, let's talk about asking for a raise. The key is to not just walk in with a single number in your head. Instead, you prepare a negotiation checklist. This should have different tiers for your goals, your ideal outcome, what's acceptable, and your absolute bottom line. But even more important, you should list other things you can trade, non-monetary items, more vacation days, a budget for training, flexible work hours. That way, when your boss says the budget is tight, you're not stuck. You can pivot and say, I totally understand. If the base salary is tough right now, could we maybe explore a project-based bonus, or perhaps the company could support a professional certification for me? You see, you're not making demands, you're solving a problem together.
And this approach works just as well at home. Say you're trying to get your teenager off their phone at night. The old way is a power move. Go to bed now, which, as you probably know, just leads to a fight. The new way starts with an emotional payment. Hey, I know it's really important for you to connect with your friends, and I'm not trying to control you. I'm just worried that you're not getting enough sleep. You've instantly shifted it from you're doing something wrong to I'm concerned about you. Then you can collaborate. How can we figure out a solution that works for both of us? You've just turned an opponent into a partner.
So when you put all of this together, the myths we busted, the 2 pillars, the practical tools, it all points to one final, huge shift in your mindset. It's about moving away from confrontation and towards collaboration.
The biggest takeaway from this whole book is this. Negotiation is not about trying to outsmart or overpower someone. It's about genuinely connecting with them. When you make the human being on the other side of the table your actual focus, you don't just win the deal, you build relationships, you create new value, and you open up doors you never even knew were there.
So if there's only one thing you remember from this, let it be this. Negotiation isn't a battle you have to win, it's a puzzle you get to solve together. I really want to encourage you to start practicing this today, just in small ways. At the coffee shop, with your coworkers, with your family. Just for one day, try to stop being right and focus only on trying to understand the other person.
And that really is the heart of getting more. If these ideas connected with you, please do me a favor and like, subscribe, and share this explainer so more people can find it. We'd also really love to know what book you want us to break down next, so please drop your suggestions in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'm Eric, and I'll see you in the next one.